Hello there! Today we're going to talk about UV unwrapping in Blender. So basically, what is UV unwrapping? You can imagine UV unwrapping as the process of putting a texture on a model. So in order to do so, we have to unwrap a model, so that means placing in cuts along its edges so we can actually lay a 2D image on our 3D model. Seems easy, but it isn't always quite that easy. So today we are going to learn about it, and hopefully you'll learn something new. Anyways, I'm going to open the image editor and I'm going to basically place in the texture of whatever. I'm going to locate the texture on my computer and just drag it in like so. So I'm going to put my texture inside the socket, and right away we can see it has put it on perfectly. Basically what it did is it projected the image onto a UV island. What is a UV island? If I go to the UV editing workspace and select my whole model, we can see this is a UV island. One face is represented by one face over here, or rather a square, and this whole thing here you can see basically represents this cube. You may have done that in math in primary school, I'm not sure, depends on where you live, but this is basically a cube projection. Of course we have something that's called a cube projection here, but that's not quite the same. We will learn in this tutorial how to place seams or cuts into your model and unwrap it like that. So basically this cube, when we import it, or it's the default cube, already has a UV map. So we want to get another cube that doesn't have one. So I'm gonna import a cube just like that, and where it says add cube, I'm gonna disable generate UVs. So if I go into edit mode and select everything, you can see there is nothing on the left hand side. So basically, how do you want to cut your model up in order to get that result we had just a moment ago? I'm gonna demonstrate it by importing a plane and just making something that resembles what we had just a moment ago. So that should be the grid we are about to follow. If I hit U and then unwrap, you can see that it's just the same than before. So how do we actually get that result from this cube? You can see we have that side over here, which could be basically this side or any side. So we have to see those three sides are not connected to anything, so there has to be a seam. I will add one right over here, here and here, because those three sides are not connected to anything. So I'm gonna press mark seam, control E and then mark seam. I'm gonna enable my screencast key so you can see what I'm doing. By pressing control E and pressing mark seam, you apply those red edges, and basically we want those red edges everywhere where our model is not connected. So you can see it's going this way. Here we have a connection, so this is our connection point. But basically we see that this face, which is right next to this face, doesn't have connections over here. So basically this side is this side is this, and that side is the bottom side, and same on the other side. So I'm gonna place in cuts like this, so it makes a C and an inverted C, like the letter C. Then I'm gonna press mark seam, and if I were to unwrap that, it gives me this result. So what would it look like if I didn't have any seams? So I'm gonna clear the seams, then unwrap it again, and because we have actually had a result before, it shows the same result. So if I add in another cube without UVs and just press U, unwrap, it shows you this. This is a cube projection. This is the exact same result we would get by hitting U and cube projection, and that's not what we want. What if you were to place in some loop cut, some seams, but not everywhere, and then hit U? You would get something that looks like this. And to show you what it does, I'm going to press N, go to View, Overlays, and then Stretching. Now the areas which are marked blue are not stretched at all, so they are perfect. But the areas which are green or yellow or even red have some distortion, some more than others, so it depends on the color where the most distortion is. But generally we want a model that is completely blue. If we were to add in the same material we had before, we can see up on the top where it's perfectly UV unwrapped, it shows the texture perfectly. But down here everything has heavy distortion. And if we add in these two seams, which we used to have before, then hit U, it should make things a little better. And indeed it does. It does go more to the cyanish turquoise color, and we have some blue parts here. But again, it is heavily distorted. And in some parts, or in some cases, you might want some distortion, or you never want distortion, but you can live with it. It's not that obvious, it's not that noticeable, and then it's fine. With some complex models, it doesn't matter too much. If you have a perfect unwrap, some distortion is okay. You should try going for the perfect unwrap always, but it's not always even possible to get a perfect unwrap, let alone actually have no distortion whatsoever. So by adding back those seams, you can see the whole model is blue. And basically these islands represent the place of the texture which it gets affected by. So if we have a look at this, when we select only this face, which I can do by going into edit mode and then selecting this face, you would see, don't mind actually the color, it changes every time you click. When you select the whole model, it is actually blue. So you can see this face is right over here, and it's basically perfect. But it changes really much by when you actually change its position. That's because it's getting affected by a different part of the image. And that goes for actually the whole model. If we shift everything, you can see that it's actually taking into account different parts of the image. So you want to keep that in mind. Also, you shouldn't go around spamming your seams everywhere, because basically there is a disconnection in the texture everywhere where you put a seam. Sometimes we can use that to our advantage, but in some cases we might actually want the whole model to look like it's one solid part, and visible disconnection would not help us by doing so. But you can see here is no seam, and the texture just kind of flows around it. You can see this part of the wood just going right over here. Same with that side, it just bends right through. But then here again you can see that there is a discontinuation between this part of the image and this part of the image, or even this part and this part, because here the wood is going in this direction, and here the wood is going in this direction, and you absolutely would not want that. But what can you do? Actually, there is no disconnection. It's just a different part of the image. Happens to be right over here that this part ends and this one doesn't. Anyways, so you can see we have all of these things done and set, and right over here the texture just flows around, and right here, but everywhere where there's a cut, it kind of doesn't. And there is no such thing as the one way to UV unwrap something. It really depends on what you want. Maybe you want a different texture on top here, but you want the wood to just kind of flow everywhere around this kind of circle. So on all these sides you want there to be wood and it's all going in the same direction, but on this and this side you want some different kind of woods, like for instance you're making a barrel or something. Then what I would suggest is going with something else, because if we clear these seams and I just apply them to here and here, then go hit mark seam. Now to show you just as an example, don't do it, it's going to give us a bad result again, so I'm gonna unwrap it and you can see we have some distortion. That's because we have to mark at least one seam somewhere so there's a discontinuation, but not a big one. So we place our seams generally there where there's a real seam, like for instance you have something on top of this, and when you have two separate textures you would see that there is a seam. For instance you have like plastic on top of wood, then there's an obvious seam, like you don't see the wood transition into the plastic, you would see serious discontinuation and then the plastic would start or something like that. So when we place in our cut here, it should be able to flow just around it, and indeed it does. You can see this is our top. If I enable this right here, then you can see if I select for instance this, you can see this gets selected, this, then this gets selected, and we can move these individually. And now what we have is sort of something that just works together. If I were to rotate these by 90 degrees, then you would see, maybe if I move that right over here and then rotate it by 90 degrees, you would see that it just keeps on going. And you really want to position these to your liking, so you get the result you want. For instance like this, I just want them to be all aligned, so I have like this ongoing texture all around it, and up here and down here I want something else. So there is no one way to unwrap it. That's what you have to understand. You really need to understand that there is multiple ways you can do something like this, and that you wanna keep that in mind. So while unwrapping it, so you have to apply the seams where you want the seams to be. Generally you want to have as few seams as possible, except if there is a visible seam you want to have in your texture. So for instance if you change textures, like from one wood to the other, from one metal to the other, so just like that. Anyways, I added in a new cube. Let me add it again so I can have UVs. So we have this, and as I promised you, this is this. Although you can see it, I don't know if you can really imagine it, but just look at this. We will wrap this part around here, so this is kind of going there, or actually I'll just show you. So I'll put my origin point right over here, and then I'll change my my pivot point to be the 3D cursor. And now if I rotate this around the x-axis, you can see this is going around here. If I put my 3D cursor around here and then rotate by 90 degrees along the y-axis, and here again, wait, I actually have to put my cursor there, and then rotate it by 90 degrees on the y negative. Wait, why doesn't it rotate? Because I'm not rotating the right edge. So like this. Now we actually get this. We've put this part over here and these parts over there. So basically that is the reason why we don't have seams here and here, because we want those to just simply flop over here and then around it, which I can show you by doing this. So I'm going to rotate first this to right over here. Then what I want to do is rotate this edge by 90 degrees, and you can see we have that box already. And now I want to rotate this edge by 180 degrees, and there we have it. This is a cube, this is a cube. It's literally the same, and it has the same UV map, because we have physical cuts here, and here we have like imaginative cuts. So this is how you unwrap a model. Basically what I will do now is I will add in the cylinder and discuss what you will need to do with cylindrical shapes, because as you can see you have these things going over here and these islands which represent the top and the bottom, but as a general rule of thumb you can see the proportions aren't quite right. With the basic unwrap, these here are actually way too thin, because you can see there is way more thickness to them than there is in the UV editor. They're actually thicker and less long than they are here, and these circles are also very exaggerated. So how can we fix this? By selecting the top face and the bottom face and marking them as seams, and unwrapping them, we will get a bad result like this, which will work later in the video, but on another model. But how do we fix this? Well, suppose we are looking at it from this angle. Then we would want to go to the back and add in a seam somewhere where we don't see it, because generally we want to have those seams everywhere where we can't see them, because we don't want to see the discontinuation in the texture right here. We don't want to see it at all, so we put it in the back, and that should be fine. When we unwrap it now, you can see these here have the same proportions as here, so they're quite thicker than before, less long, so there is no stretching, and these circles are way smaller, and that is really important, because if you apply a texture to it, now it's going to look normal. You're of course going to have that discontinuation because of the seams, but it's going to look normal, and that is really important. Now you have something that looks like something, because if we apply it to a normal cylinder with the basic unwrap, let me just find that cylinder right here, you're going to see it's kind of stretched. These are not thick enough, they are actually really thin, they are basically not how they're supposed to look like, and up here you have like these really elongated shapes too, because it takes up much more space here. So basically you want to unwrap it like I just did, and we should be fine. We can add in a cone, and here you can see that it's really a simple model, just because everything flows in into one point. We can just get away with doing something like this, Control E, mark seam, and we should get the same unwrap. Yep, just a bit different proportions, but that is actually what we want, because otherwise we won't get the result. But it's not good to have like a circular thing here, because then the texture doesn't really wrap around it. So what we can do is add in the seam right here, and then hit U, unwrap, and then we get like this half circle, which would even be better for texture painting or something. You're never gonna get something good out of a cone, but if you texture paint it, this sort of unwrap will do it. Will do a way better job than before. So if you have anything that flows into one point and you have to merge by distance, just do it like this and it'll be fine. Anyways, you have the icosphere, which I'm not going to cover because nobody really uses the icosphere, because it has a lot of triangles and it has like this really weird pattern to it, which we actually don't even want. It's very unwanted and unloved in the process of 3D modeling, so we want to have meshes with quads. Yeah, and then there's not much to it. you can now unwrap a model. If we just go ahead and add in something like a cube, and I'm going to do some funny stuff to it, like for instance bring this in, and I'm gonna disable snapping because it gets on my nerves. So like this, now like this, and going up ES, and then like this, then we should have something that is a bit more complex. And if we unwrap it like this, it's going to give us this result, which doesn't look near what we want. So let me just unwrap it real quick. I'm going to use the same technique right over here that we used for the cube at the beginning. So I'm going to mark a seam, and what we want to do now, you can see I have enabled this so we can always see the UV grid. What I want to do now is go to live unwrap. So every time I place in the seam right now, which I'm going to do right over here, yeah, I'm going to do that, it's going to unwrap it automatically, so I don't have to always press U unwrap. It will just make our lives pretty easy. So I'm going to place in some cuts right over here, and mark seam. This is looking way better than before. I can add in some cuts right over here, mark seam, and we see that we have less and less and less stretching. So by adding in some cuts right over here, we could get even less stretching. And the main stretching point right here is this part. I'm gonna disconnect it as a whole, and then add in seam right over here, and a seam right over here. So there is really no simple solution to this kind of problem. Whenever you have an inset, you just have to do something that looks halfway decent, because insets are really bad. So I just marked everything as a seam and then made it connect to this, so it gets out of the way. And now what we can do is mark a seam here. That should help a lot, and it does help a lot. Yeah. But now what can we do? In order to see what's happening right over here, we can just select this, and we'll see that there is a bit of stretching. So you can see that I forgot to place in a cut right here, and now everything is blue, but we have also these parts here which are not looking as nice. So what I can do is basically mark seam right here and right here, and now everything is blue. So this is a good unwrap. What I would want is to actually get these vertices right here, this, and this, and then move them, but I can't. So what I'm going to do instead is mark some more seams. Maybe I can get away with doing this and this, maybe. Oops. Not edge split, but mark seam. Like this. And that is looking way better. So basically you have to play around with it. And if I apply my texture to it now, you can see that it wraps around it really good. So yeah, that's it. I hope you learned something, and we will see each other in the next episode when we basically use all of this. Yeah, see you around. Bye.